Welcome contestant number 3.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm very happy to be here to share with you some of my thoughts on the topic of globalization. And first of all, I would like to mention an event in our recent history. 30 years ago, American President Richard Nixon made an epoch-making visit to China, a country still isolated at that time. Premier Zhou and I said to him, "Your handshake came over the vastest ocean in the world. 25 years of no communication." Ever since then, China and America have exchanged many handshakes of various kinds. The fundamental implication of this example is that the need and desire to communicate across differences in culture and ideology is not only felt by the two countries, but by many other nations as well. As we can see today, environmentalists from different countries are making joint efforts to address the issue of global warming. Economists are seeking solutions to financial crises that rage in a particular region, but nonetheless cripple the world economy. And diplomats and politicians are getting together to discuss the issue of combating terrorism. Peace and prosperity has become a common goal that we are striving for all over the world. Underlying this mighty trend of globalization is the echo of E.M. Forster's words, "Only connect." With the IT revolution taking place, traditional boundaries of human society fall away. Our culture, politics, society and commerce are being sloshed into a large melting pot of humanity. In this interlinked world, there are no outsiders, for a disturbance in one place is likely to impact other parts of the globe. We have begun to realize that a world divided cannot endure. China is now actively integrating into the world. Our recent entry to the WTO is a good example. For decades, we have taken pride in being self-reliant, but now we realize the importance of participating and contributing to a broader economic order. From the precarious role in the world arena to our present WTO membership, we have come a long way. But what does the way ahead look like? In some parts of the world, people are demonstrating against globalization. Are they justified then in criticizing the globalizing world? Instead of narrowing the gap between the rich and the poor, they say globalization enables developed nations to swallow the developing nations' wealth in debts and interest. Globalization, they argue, should be about an earnest interest in every other nation's economic health. We're reminded by Karl Marx that capital goes beyond national borders and eludes control from any other entity. This has become a reality. Multinational corporations are seeking the lowest cost, the largest market, and the most favorable policy. They're often powerful lobbyists in government decision-making, ruthless expansionists in the global marketplace, and a devastating presence to local businesses. For China, still more challenges exist. How are we going to ensure a smooth transition from the planned economy to a market-based one? How to construct an ecosystem that is sound enough and broad enough to respond to the needs of a dynamic society? How to maintain our cultural identity in an increasingly homogeneous world? And how to define greatness in our rise as a peace-loving nation? Globalization entails questions that concern us all. Like many young people my age in China, I want to see my country get prosperous and enjoying respect in the international community. But it seems to me that mere patriotism is not just enough. It is vitally important that we young people do more serious thinking and broaden our mind to bigger issues. And there might never be easy answers to those issues such as globalization, but to take them on and give them honest thinking is the first step to be prepared for both opportunities and challenges coming our way. And this is also one of the thoughts that came to me while preparing this speech. Thank you.
Contestant number 3, if you were the first Chinese astronaut to go to the moon and you could leave 3 objects, which 3 objects would you leave and why?
Thank you. Well, if I were the first Chinese astronaut to go to the moon, I would like to bring with me the following 3 items. First of all, I would like to bring a toy, or rather a miniature of panda. Panda is our Chinese national treasure, and it's known to all that it is unique to our Chinese habitat, to our Chinese environment, to our Chinese climate. And it's known to all that Sichuan province provides a perfect natural habitat for pandas. If you look at panda, under the cute appearance and the seemingly awkward movement, you can see that it is very composed in manner. It is at peace with other species and at peace with the environment. That's something we need to learn from the pandas. Second, I would like to bring a man-made object, and it will be a traditional Chinese painting. Well, I learned Chinese traditional painting in my childhood for years, and I hope it's one done by me. When I learned that, I know that it is even more important to notice what is left unpainted on the picture. And also on the typical Chinese painting, you also see a poem, and usually written in beautiful Chinese calligraphy. And also there is a seal there. And usually a Chinese painting will portray the beautiful Chinese landscape. And third, I would like to bring a map of the world. Well, some of you might be surprised, why not a map of China? First and last, I know that I'm a Chinese man, but I'm also aware that in this age of increasing interconnectedness, that I'm also a citizen of the world. I couldn't confine my horizons only within the Chinese borders. I need to look beyond that. I also should know that there are vast areas of seas and lands beyond our borders, and it is important that we reach out and understand them. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, contestant number 3. A question, please, about your prepared speech. And you began early in the speech by talking about a very important event that took place 30 years ago, this very year, and that was Richard Nixon's visit to China. And I was a student, actually roughly your age, at the time that event took place, and I remember watching it with very close television coverage in the United States. And it was an extremely important event in the United States because it opened the mind of the United States to China in the same way that it had an impact on Chinese people's attitudes toward the United States. And any aspect of globalization with respect to China in the future will certainly involve Chinese-American relations. And so the question I would ask you is if you could map out an ideal course for the future of American-Chinese relations in an age of globalization, and can do so in the very short time you have for the answer, what might that ideal course of U.S.-Chinese relations look like?
Well, it seems a question that is very demanding. Well, I'm not a politician. I'm a Chinese college student, so I'm going to answer your question from that aspect. Okay. To map out the ideal course for Sino-US relations, I would like to imagine such a picture, that there will be more exchanges between our two peoples in the future. Economic exchanges, exchanges of ideas, of technology, and many other kinds. This is the first thing. And because why I think of this is that I'm aware that personal communication usually leads to a better relations between nations. Well, our relationships with the United States of America, with Japan, all began in roughly this way. So I would like to see this happen. And as a college student, I really want to learn the state-of-the-art technologies and also the cultural heritages of other nations and of other peoples. So I also want to see more academic exchanges, exchange of students, of teachers, so that we can bring to our own nation what we have seen and what we have learned in other nations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Contestant number 3, thank you for your speeches. I'd like to ask a question based on your second speech, if I may. In your second speech, you said that it was important to reach through borders in order to understand other people. I'd like to ask you, if you were a teacher in a British school, what would you teach British children about your own culture?
What will I teach to British children about my own culture? Okay, thank you. I think I'll teach them many things about First, the ancient Chinese civilization, our culture. Because I was brought up in that culture. From a very young age, I learned Chinese calligraphy and Chinese painting. I'm aware that how valuable it is. It was valuable to the ancient Chinese people because it portrayed and captured their world views, and it brought out the essence and the best of the Chinese mind. And I'm also aware that to tell them something of the long past is not enough. It's far from enough, actually. I also want to tell them the developments of China today. Because right now I'm studying in another city, not my hometown. And every time I go back home, I realize the important changes taking place in my hometown. And I believe it's the same for the foreigner to look at China. They might be amazed at the tremendous changes that have taken place over the last 20 years. And I want to tell them that China is a country that is both ancient in culture and civilization and modern in their world views. Thank you.
I'd also like to ask you a question about your unprepared speech. That is, you mentioned 3 things that you would take to the moon. I think these are all very good choices. If you could have a 4th choice, what would it be?
Well, that's really an unexpected question. A 4th choice. Well, probably I'll bring a tape, or possibly a videotape, of something, maybe greetings, or the way we communicate our daily conversations or expressions expressed in the world's different languages. That's important. I'm a language major, and I know that in the world there are many different languages. Many people estimate it to be 60,000, maybe there are more, but many of these languages are dying out. They're endangered. And I want to keep them on record and show to people from other planets maybe, or to show our descendants who might come to the moon later, that well, there used to be so many languages and they represent so many different cultures and ways of life. And that might be the 4th object I might bring to the moon. Thank you.
Thank you.